Hello there. Welcome to Just the Dis. My name is Brian and we talk about Blu-rays here. And for this video, I'm going to spotlight some Kino and Kino co-produced, co-distributed titles for the month of July. These will be coming out throughout that month. And I'm going to start with a little movie called The Black Marble, directed by Harold Becker from 1980. And this is one that I had seen before. It was on an out-of-print Anchor Bay DVD that ports over, I think, the commentary from Harold Becker, which is a good track from the director. But it is a mystery film. It is based on the novel by Joseph Wambaugh, who also did The Onion Field with Harold Becker. And apparently it was independently produced and picked up for studio distribution. But it is really great. I forgot, I think the first time I watched it, if I finished it, I didn't care for it, but I have since really come to appreciate this movie. It is a LA movie. It is sort of a detective film or a cop film, and it stars Robert Foxworth, who I remember from things like Prophecy. He's in some other stuff too, but Prophecy is the big one with the bear. He's the big star of that. And it also stars Paula Prentice and Harry Dean Stanton, who is great. And the idea is that Robert Foxworth's character is a Russian detective named Valnikov, and he works for the LAPD. He's been transferred out of homicide. He's now in robbery, I guess. And Paula Prentice is another cop who gets assigned to him as her partner, and she's not particularly excited about it because he is a fairly notorious alcoholic. In fact, at the beginning of the film, we see a scene of him embarrassing himself in terms of his alcoholism. But they slowly warm to each other, and that's really intriguing to watch. But it is also a movie about dog napping, and has some roots and some sort of taking placeness in the world of dog shows. And Harry Dean Stanton is really great in this role. He plays Philo Skinner, the Terrier King, and he is a dog groomer who takes a lot of pride in his dog grooming, but he is also a heavily addicted gambler who owes a ton of money and decides that he's going to substitute a schnauzer that he takes care of at his kennel for a champion show dog schnauzer from this woman who he sees on the cover of a magazine, and then offer the dog, ask for a ransom, basically. And so Valnikov gets involved with the theft and slowly trying to track down Harry Dean, and it sounds maybe not as interesting as it is, but I think the combination of it being an LA movie in 1980, so basically the 1970s, and the cast and the dog show stuff, and Harry Dean again in a really great role, a villain, but basically you have two losers. Valnikov is a loser who kind of needs to redeem himself, and sort of the same thing goes for Harry Dean in some ways. I just was really impressed with it. It impressed me more than I had remembered, and so I gotta recommend The Black Marble. It is a 4K restoration from the original camera negative, and it looks great. It looks really good, better than, of course, I've ever seen it look. It's a 2:3:5:1 film, so really nice and widescreen. But this is probably my pick of the month if I had to pick one. So definitely check out The Black Marble. Another high on the list, and really excited to see this on Blu-ray, is The Road to Selena. This directed by George Lautner from 1970, a full 10 years before The Black Marble, and starring Mimsy Farmer, Robert Walker, Rita Hayworth, and Ed Begley. This one is so intriguing because I've only seen sort of less than great copies of it. It hasn't had a great track record of home video releases. And the way that it has been neglected has sort of given it a cult following for those that have seen it, and so it's really exciting to have a really beautiful Blu-ray. Like, this Blu-ray looks fantastic. It's a 4K restoration from the original camera negative. And basically the idea is that Robert Walker Jr., who looks a heck of a lot like his dad, plays this drifter who happens upon this like little gas station diner-y place, very small. And the woman there that runs the place, played by Mimsy Farmer, says, to him, "Oh, you've come back." And she believes him to be her son. And so he just figures, okay, I'll play along for a little while. And, it becomes kind of a very weird situation when you involve yourself in someone else's fantasy like that. And, so it gets kind of strange and existential. It feels like, I don't know, Antonioni or something like that, but it is incredibly unique and a really great movie that I am so glad, as I said, gets a nice Blu-ray. Apparently some of the soundtrack score was used by Quentin Tarantino in Kill Bill Volume 2. So there's a little bit of notoriety for the soundtrack out there. But again, I can't recommend this one enough. Really good stuff. I prefer the Black Marble, but that's just my thing. But I think a lot of people will say this is maybe the best release for Kino in July. So highly recommended. Also includes an audio commentary with Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. And great performances, as I said, from Mimsy Farmer, Robert Walker Jr., and Ed Begley. Just a really cool, interesting, mysterious art house 70s movie. Highly, highly recommended. Also interesting, and from, I want to say, 1970. This one's coming from Scorpion. It's also getting a release from Indicator later this summer, and that is The People Next Door. And this stars Eli Wallach, Julie Harris, Holbrook, Deborah Winters, Cloris Leachman, and it's sort of a My Kid is on Drugs kind of movie. Basically, Eli Wallach and Julie Harris are a married couple. They have 2 kids. One is played by Deborah Winters, and the other is played by a very young Stephen McCaddy. I don't see him on the back here, but basically Stephen McCaddy is the older brother of the 2. Oh, you can kind of see him in that shot there. And he's in a band, and we see his band performing, and her at the performance, Deborah Winters, that is, and she gets into some acid. She takes some acid and has this trip, and Eli Wallach immediately vilifies his son and says, I basically, get out. You can't believe you did this to her. And come to find out that he wasn't the one that gave her the acid, and that she, they think she's going to be okay, but then she takes acid again, and they have to basically put her in a hospital, and it gets all complicated. And it's again kind of heavy but interesting to see. Like, the Deborah Winters character is a really tough character. Like, she's obviously very lost and plays kind of unlikable in some ways, but an intriguing performance from her, and a very interesting, like I said, sort of drug hysteria movie. Not Reefer Madness, ridiculous, but has some moments of, oh my gosh, and then some moments of real, genuine, emotion with Eli Wallach and Julie Harris, kind of saying, what can we do? What did we do wrong? All that stuff. So very intriguing generation gap kind of drama, and a great performance by Stephen McCaddy too. This is what you won't get on the Indicator Blu-ray. My friend Bill Ackerman of the Supporting Characters podcast, who's done a lot of commentaries, does a commentary track on this, which I have heard and which is great. And there's also a new interview with actor Don Scardino. So this is the Region A version. Know that there will be a Region B, but it won't include the commentary from Bill Ackerman, who I give my highest recommendation to as well. So this was a discovery for me. I'd never seen this film. Very interesting stuff. Speaking of discoveries, here is one called Stranger on the Run, as you can see, directed by Don Siegel from 1967. I believe it to be Don Siegel's first, Henry Fonda's, no alternate artwork, by the way. Henry Fonda's first TV movie, I think I read somewhere. I could be wrong about that. But kind of a Bad Day at Black Rock vibe, where you have a drifter played by Fonda in a pretty rough toupee, coming into this small western town looking for this woman, and it's a railroad town. It is run by special agents who are like sheriffs, basically, and it is run, in this case, by the great Michael Parks, Tarantino favorite, and he has several special agents under him, including Sal Mineo, a very unhinged Zalman King. You have Ann Baxter, Lloyd Bachner. I'm trying to think. There's some more. Oh, Dan Duryea is really great in this as sort of an older guy who's like sort of one of the special agents, but kind of the right-hand man to the Michael Parks character. And sort of the mystery begins to unravel as to where, Fonda's looking for this woman. They seem to know the woman. She was there. They're saying she's left. We find out maybe she hasn't left, and we need to know why that's happened and what could happen to her and what could possibly happen to him in terms of, like, he's a drifter, and if anything bad goes wrong, could he be blamed for it, et cetera, et cetera. So, interesting TV movie from 1967, looks good. Brand new HD master from a 2K scan, and includes a commentary from film historian and screenwriter Gary Girani. It has this nice slipcase, as you can see. I love the continuing release of TV movies by Kino. Very exciting stuff. And this was a really neat, again, discovery for me, because I love Don Siegel and I love to see all his work. So great cast and interesting movie there. This is one I've been waiting for a long time. This is Alias Jesse James, directed by the great Norman Z. MacLeod, who worked on some films for the Marx Brothers, Horse Feathers. He did some W.C. Fields films, including It's a Gift, which is really basically my favorite comedy of all time. I adore It's a Gift, which actually also got announced from Kino as coming, I don't know if it's late this year or next year, but I cannot wait for It's a Gift. But anyway, Norman Z. MacLeod, this is his actual final feature film, I believe. Stars Bob Hope and Rhonda Fleming. Classic Bob Hope, schleppy guy, in this case in the Old West. It's sort of the early, I want to say it's around 1900, so it's like end of the West kind of stuff, and he plays Milford Farnsworth, I think. I love the names. Yeah. And he is an insurance salesman, and he unknowingly sells a policy to Jesse James, played by Wendell Corey. And when he brings the policy back to his office and his boss freaks out and says, "What have you done? This is going to cost us so much money. You need to go and get him to sell the policy back or cancel it or protect him so he doesn't get killed." So then you have a cowardly guy who is now engaging himself to protect Jesse James so the insurance policy doesn't go south. But it's very funny and includes cameos from James Arness, Ward Bond, Gary Cooper, Bing Crosby, Fess Parker, Roy Rogers, and Trigger, and more. And it's just very funny. It's very goofy. I love comedy westerns. This has a very funny comedy shootout at the end, and no features on this one, just the theatrical trailer, but very excited to have a fun Bob Hope comedy western from Norman Z. MacLeod on Blu-ray. Then we have one that has gotten a release previous as part of the Film Noir, Essential Film Noir box set from Imprint Films in Australia. That one, I believe, is region free. This is region A, and this is Alias Nick Beale, which is a really great John Farrow noir, but it borders on supernatural, because basically you have, of course, Ray Milland, Audrey Totter, and Thomas Mitchell. Thomas Mitchell plays an enterprising, I want to say lawyer who's looking, or no, he's the DA, I think, but has his eye on the governorship, and suddenly he encounters this man who calls himself Nick Beale, played by Ray Milland, who seems surprisingly knowing of all things that could potentially help Thomas Mitchell's character in his pursuit of the governorship. And yeah, he's a little dicey, and you can kind of guess sorry, I almost said guessed, I meant Faust, in the Faustian sort of way, where this might be going. And Audrey Totter is great. She's sort of an assistant to him, Thomas Mitchell. But this was another one that was sort of a long time unavailable film, a favorite of Joe Dante's. I know he's a big proponent of this one. And now it's gotten 2 Blu-rays in the past, 9-10 months. Maybe it's a year. I don't know. But very exciting for folks in the States that didn't pick up the Essential Noir collection. This is a must-have, a really great noir with a really great commentary track from film historian Eddie Muller. So this one's highly recommended. Absolutely a must pick up for noir fans. I've got a few more noirs I'm going to call out here. This one I hadn't seen before. This is called The Web. This is from 1947, directed by Michael Gordon. It's good. It's got Edmund O'Brien, Ella Raines, William Bendix, and Vincent Price. Edmund O'Brien plays a lawyer who is trying to help out one of his clients and busts in on a bigwig played by Vincent Price, who is assisted by Ella Raines. She's his faithful assistant, and William Bendix is a cop, and that comes in a minute. But basically, Edmund O'Brien is then hired by Vincent Price as a bodyguard to protect him against a guy who's just gotten out of jail, who we come to find out was sort of involved with Vincent Price's character and maybe did some things for him illegally and ended up going to jail. And there's a murder and there's some questionable motives, and William Bendix is very suspicious of a lot of people. And I don't want to give away too much. I'd really like you guys to just see this one and let it play out. But I like Vincent Price in this sort of charming villainish role. He's very good, as is Edmund O'Brien and William Bendix and Ella Raines. They're all very good. Ella Raines, of course, in things like Phantom Lady, one of my favorite undersea noirs. But yeah, this one's solid and has a commentary by professor and film scholar Jason A. Ney. And yeah, so worth checking out. And then this one called Larceny has another great cast. It's John Payne, Joan Caulfield, Dan Duryea, and Shelley Winters as sort of a femme fatale, which is great. I haven't seen a ton of those performances. But basically, Dan Duryea, who I love, runs sort of a big con racket where he's got some people working for him. John Payne is one of them. And he's got a con set up where he sends John Payne to California to try and basically con this widow played by Joan Caulfield, and it gets complicated because he starts to fall for her, and things get dark because Dan Duryea is not particularly nice, and Shelley Winters is kind of evil too. But yeah, this one was cool. I'd never seen it, never heard of it. This has a commentary by Eddie Von Mueller, but another noir that I thought I would highlight. This one from 1948, but just a great cast and fun noir trappings. Speaking of which, a modern noir-ish tale from 1998, Clay Pigeons, directed by David Dobkins, starring, of course, Joaquin Phoenix, Vince Vaughn, and Janeane Garofalo. And I hadn't seen this one in forever. I probably hadn't seen this one since 1998. And so it was really neat to catch up with this film. Joaquin Phoenix plays this sort of down on his luck sort of guy who is immediately put in a bad situation at the very beginning of the movie. And he is sort of involved with his best friend's wife, and she turns out to be, talk about your femme fatales, really no good at all. And then people start showing up dead, and Vince Vaughn shows up, and he's a little weird, and you don't know what his deal is, and Janeane Garofalo shows up as an FBI agent, and she's great. But I won't go too far into what happens with this one either. It's another one I'd think people would like to see, and it is neat to see a very young Joaquin Phoenix, obviously as popular as he is now, in the lead of this film. But yeah, lots of noir trappings here, lots of double crosses, lots of not a lot, but some red herrings, some things where you're like, oh, I think I know where this is going, but then maybe you don't. And yeah, just really solid stuff. And I dug it. And this has a commentary from director David Dobkin. Looks good on Blu-ray, but a 90s dark comedy thriller that I think people may have forgotten about. Just a few more here that I haven't seen. Besmoi, which definitely means something a bit more explicit in French. And I've only heard great things about this movie and its explicitness. In fact, it says that the shocking French thriller Besmoi tells the story of two young women who go on a violent spree against society in which they feel marginalized. One of them, Manu, is brutally raped by a group of savage slugs. The other, Nadine, sells her body but refuses to give up her soul. Chance unites them, and together they decide to alter their destinies Angry at the world, they embark on a twisted, rage-filled road trip, leaving a trail of mischief and dead bodies, similar in some ways to Clay Pigeons. Written and directed by Virgin Despentes and Carol Trinity. From Despence's novel, this raw, explosive film continues to stir controversy with its graphic mix of high-impact violence and explicit sex scenes. Yeah, I do remember this being noted for having some really crazy explicit sex in it. But again, I haven't seen this one yet, so comments below if you're a fan. I know a lot of people dig this one, but I wanted to make people aware this has come out. I know this is a big deal, so I couldn't not include it in the spotlight. Some nice features here, audio commentary, new one from Kat Ellinger, always a must when we're talking about features on this channel. The Making of Besmoi, a 40-minute documentary featuring interviews with the director and the stars, and a Q&A with the directors. So a pretty nice special edition of this film from 2000. And so in French with English subtitles. Just wanted to make people aware of that one. Another from Scorpion, another film I don't know. Looks bizarre but interesting. The Time Guardian. This one, it says the year is 4039 as the human race nears extinction under the rule of beast-like creatures. An entire city travels through time in hopes of evading capture and forever changing the future. Tom Burlinson, the man from Snowy River, Carrie Fisher, Dean Stockwell, and Nikki Kogel star in this 1980s science fiction epic. Now see it from a brand new new HD master in widescreen. So I don't know. That looks interesting. I'm digging Dean Stockwell's outfit there on the back, and Carrie Fisher's in this too, and that guy looks interesting. So I don't know about this one. Again, I haven't seen it, but some of these weird sci-fi movies that slip through the cracks tend to be entertaining and enjoyable. So I wanted to throw that in as well. And one from Code Red, a biker film called JC. And I've heard that despite the title, it is not quite as religious heavy as one would think. It is about, it says when society turned against him, he made his own society with a religious fanatic for a father. The last thing JC wanted was to follow in his footsteps. To escape his background, he becomes the leader of a motorcycle gang. Then one night, while tripping on drugs with his gang, a vision convinces JC that he possesses unique and spiritual powers. He preaches a sermon asking for followers to go west with him, but they get no further than his establishment and the prophet, a story of rebellion. JC is the dynamic portrait of social unrest caused by a generation torn by conflicting values, with white against black, young against old, and culture against subculture. It starred, co-wrote, produced, and directed by this cult classic, William F. McGaha. And it also has Joanna Moore, Burr DeBenning, Pat Delaney, Simone Griffith, and the great Slim Pickens. And this is a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. Always nice to see that. So yeah, I don't know. I've gotten more into biker movies a little bit in the last 6 to 8 months. And so I'm curious about this one. They're a mixed bag for me. Biker movies can sometimes be really irritating and annoying, and this could be that. But this one seemed interesting and rare, and one that, again, I wanted to highlight because I think some people will be looking for, or have been looking for this one for a long time. So very exciting to get a Blu-ray release of this. But that's all I got for the July Spotlight. Hopefully there's some stuff in here that you find interesting, maybe worth picking up. And keep checking on Kino. They keep cranking out interesting stuff. And so I'm always going to have a monthly spotlight, if I can, of some titles of theirs that I think are worth looking into. This was a really interesting month. So I hope you enjoyed this. Give it a like. Subscribe if you can, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Bye-bye.